It's October 2004, and I'm Elaine Gibson, and I'm talking to Gladys Axtell about her life living in Weston Turville.
Right. My name is Gladys Axtell, born the 22nd of July 1923. I am 81 years of age and have lived in Weston Turville all my life. I now live in Will's End Lane, Nyland Cottages. My parents were Gladys Taylor and Harold Axtell. I was born in my grandmother's home in Grecian Street, Aylesbury. I am their only child. My both parents lived in a thatched cottage in Brook End. It was pulled down for road widening, which never happened. Our first home was School Lane, a little cottage along from the chapel. There were 3 cottages thatched, and we were the one at the end, opposite the beaches. Round the back was a sweet shop in a shed, and further to the back, Mr. Harding did shoe repairs. We would buy our sweets for a farthing Godstopper and spend 8 on sweets.
And when did you do that?
When we come out of school.
Right.
My second home was in Brook End, thatched cottage, opposite the Laurels, just before the garage. That was pulled down for wheelwrights to be built. My parents rented it from Mr. Sharp, the butcher, who lived in Butcher's Orchard. That house was also pulled down. No. When I came home from school, I used to do shopping for Etty Bulletin, that lived in the next little cottage at the end, and she used to give me a farthing or 8 a week, and on Saturdays I used to have to polish her red tiles for her in her sitting room. And at the end of the year, she gave me a little Christmas tea for it. I thought that was wonderful. And then my friend Muriel, that lived down, she was a coal merchant's daughter.
This was Muriel Bates?
Bates, yeah. And we used to go out on our cycle at time. And when we was 12 years old, we was allowed to ride it to school, which was wonderful then. And they had a field next onto her house, and we used to go cricketing with Alan Dixon, which was 12 months older than me. His people had the farm down there. And then we used to have pantomime once a year at the school, and that. I remember I was a fairy once. And we used to have the 8 club once a week in the schoolroom, and that was the old school. And then at the end of the year, we used to have currant buns and jam and butter on the bread and a cracker. We thought that was wonderful.
Tell me about when you used to go and help.
Oh, yes.
Mill Farm.
Down at Mill Farm, my cousin and I, her father was the head man down at Mill Farm. And on a Saturday, we used to go down and do all sorts of jobs. Imagine we was helping a lot. And Miss Redwood, which was the housekeeper for Mr. Purcell, 'cause he was a bachelor, we used to have, about 12 o'clock on Saturdays, a big beaker of cocoa And also when the daffodils came out round the lake down there, we was the ones to have the first bunch of daffodils.
This lake, was that by the mill?
Yeah. And we used to go haymaking with them, haymaking times, and we used to have eggs given us at times. Well, then, of course, it come the time when I left school, you see. We used to have magic lanterns in the church when we was young. Of course, there was no street lights in them days, no street lights what at all. So, anyway, we used to have to go in forced. Of course, it was so dark. But then you never had any fear in them days, and that was it. Well, then come the time when I left school.
How old were you?
14. 14 I was when I left school. And Muriel had left just before me. And she went and worked at McIlroy's, and I went and worked for South's. Well, it was really Blum's, but it traded in the name of, say, Eye Confectioners.
And that was in Aylesbury?
In Aylesbury.
In the High Street?
In the High Street, Aylesbury. And then came the war. And so I went into the hospital service for 8.5 years, but I had to come out and feel well there. And then I went and worked for Walters's at the Roundhouse, Aylesbury, for 35.5 years, and they couldn't afford a part in prison.
Can I take you back to your time at Stoke Mandeville?
Yeah.
Because you went into the housekeeping department,
in the housekeeping department.
And you worked for the Canadians, you said?
When I first went there, I worked with the Canadians, and I couldn't wish for anybody better. I wouldn't hear one word said against them, I wouldn't. And then came the Minister of Pension, and then the Minister of Health, and that was when I left there. And then...
Tell me a little bit about the work you did there.
Oh, yes, with the housekeeper you had to keep everything clean, and if one of the staff was ill, had to look after. And then if there was a convoy of wounded soldiers at night, I cycled at 2:30 and 3:00 along the Old Stoke Road. We used to have to provide food and all that for them.
How many men would be in a convoy?
Oh, there could be 20 or 30 in a convoy, you see.
And these were injured men?
Injured, or...
What kind of injuries?
All sorts. Legs, bodies, stomachs smashed, faces, you know, everything. You've got to be prepared for anything. And then I retired when I was 61, and I belonged to the Wendover Garden Society. I did belong to Weston for a time, the two, but I'll be honest, I like Wendover, and we have little afternoons, and we used to have shows, and I won a cup there and all. And the other week we had a most lovely do, and the chairman got together and we had a social afternoon. It was lovely. And there was floral arrangements, and I had third prize for the floral. In the meantime, I help with the church cleaning, and also I see the lady chapels, all right. I've been up there this morning and put some flowers in the lady chapel. I like gardening, but being as I've got arthritis there, but my neighbour, which if Rose comes in later, it's her husband that helps and does the digging and that. So that's it, you see, that's life.
There's an awful lot you haven't told us. What about when you worked at the hospital? You said the worst injury you saw wasn't from the war, was it?
Oh, yes. Do you want me to say that as well? The worst case I saw, it wasn't a wounded soldier. It was in a factory and his face got blown out.
So Stoke Mandeville
But Stoke Mandeville got going and he went also to,
Roehampton, was it?
What do you call it? I told you.
Was it Roehampton?
Roehampton. And to Roehampton and then back to Stoke. And in the meantime, I'd left and he came to the shop when he was going back home and shook hands and kissed me and said, thank you for helping. And he said, I shall never forget that first night. Well, I happened to be there on the first night. But it's something that I shall never forget, you know. You just imagine seeing her face.
I also know that you used to go in sometimes on a Sunday to ward.
Always used to go. The worst ward was 1X, and my friend that I was friendly with there, she was the daughter of the one that looked after the Checkers estate. So we used to, on our off, if we was off on a Sunday, we used to go to 1X ward and look after it while the sister went and out of there. I was very lucky because I used to go up to Checkers and I did see it, but I didn't think much of it.
What, Checkers or the Prime Minister?
Checkers. No, the Prime Minister, it was Mr. and Mrs. Chamberlain. And if we was off an afternoon and we knew they used to be coming, we used to go up because Doreen's people lived in the lodge, you see, and we used to go up and open the gate for Mr. and Mrs. Chamberlain because she was Mrs. Chamberlain, Doreen was Mrs. Chamberlain's dress lady, but she released her to come to Stoke Hospital. So I've had all sorts of things in life.
But Stoke was also famous for its paraplegics, wasn't it?
Oh, yes, and Dr. Gibson, I'm afraid he wasn't my favourite. I hadn't best say any more, but I did tell you. But he certainly wasn't, and he knew it.
It was difficult, wasn't it, because he was German?
Yeah. It didn't go down well with the boys. The doctor that was under him, Ed, when he wasn't there, Dr. Walsh, they loved him. And I did. I'd do anything for him, I would, because some dinner times I used to go and help dish up their dinner. Matter of fact, I've had a card today from the girl that used to be with me. She's 2 years older than me, but she lives at Cirencester. And when I left, Dr. Walsh made a lovely collection for me.